Hello, hello. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Laura McRae, who is a podcasting VA. She knows everything there is to know about podcasting and is going to share her knowledge with us today. Because you may have been thinking about creating a podcast for yourself, for your business. Maybe you've been thinking, oh, it's a little bit too hard. What about the tech? Is it going to work for me? After this episode, I think you'll have all of those questions answered and more. Now, this is the point in the podcast where I would usually read out the bio of our guest, but we're not going to do that. And that will come into play a little bit later. We'll explain why we're not doing that. So let's get it started. Welcome, 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 Laura. It is so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Laura, I am absolutely certain that we're going to learn so much from you today. Like, we've been podcasting now for a little over a year, and it's still a learning experience for us. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you. Let's start off with the first question. How does a podcast support a business? Like, Krishna and I kind of feel like businesses that are service-based benefit a lot more from podcasting, but how can it support any business in general?
Obviously, it's the know, like, and trust factor. That's the great thing about podcasting. I don't know about you, but I'm terrible for this. I'll binge listen to a podcast I love, and then I end up buying a course or something from somebody. So it's great for that connection. And yeah, it's great to have your own voice heard and to build your business, because people feel like they know you, and they're more likely to purchase from you if they know you. I've got a client who just launched a podcast in May last year. She started her podcast because she started a new bricks and mortar business within her hometown of Bendigo. And so the goal of the podcast wasn't to get millions of downloads and to become a celebrity. It was so that people would know about her business, connect with her, and promote her service and her products. And she's done it just in her first season. So she gets stopped on the street now and people are talking about her podcast, people she didn't know. People have heard of her business, and she's been asked by a local publisher to start a book. And she's been asked to go and speak at events. So it's one of these things. You can dream big, or you could just dream local. Whatever your goal is, everyone's different, and it's just great for building brand awareness and that connection and trust.
Just a follow-up question to that. Do you find that podcasting is better for a service-based business, or is it product-based businesses could benefit just as much?
I'll be honest, I personally don't listen to podcast product based. So, when I do, tell a lie, have you ever listened to My Dad Wrote a Porno?
No, but I've heard of it.
So I guess that's like a product based podcast. It's basically this dad's written a porno, a 60-year-old man, and his son and his two friends, so it's three co-hosts, just read a chapter of the book out on each episode. And it's really good and it's funny and it's really enticing. You want to buy the book because it's funny. So I guess that's like a great way to promote your product. And I haven't looked into it, but I imagine the dad has sold so many books now.
I can imagine the cringe factor.
Yes, really cringe. It is an awful book, but it's so funny.
Oh my goodness. I think for service-based businesses, and that's all of us here today, there's definitely value in terms of positioning yourself as an authority in your niche and demonstrating what it is that you know, for sure. Now, if people have been thinking about podcasting, and I don't know about you, Laura, but for me, it was a long time thinking about it and lots of excuses as to why I couldn't do it. I hate the sound of my voice. I've got a weird accent. I don't know the tech, all of those things. What would you recommend to people as the first thing to start thinking about if they actually do want to start a podcast?
So it's similar to what you teach in your programs, because I'm an ex-student of Krishna. She taught me all about Instagram. So it's the same as what she teaches in her first module. You need to understand your listener, so your ideal customer avatar. You need to think of a specific person that this podcast is for, what they're going to benefit from the podcast, and always think of them when you're thinking of your ideas for your podcast, because you can't talk to a nameless, faceless crowd. There needs to be one person that it's for. And that's really important, because otherwise your podcast can go off in a tangent And then a few episodes down, you think, why am I even talking about this? And you're forgetting where it started from. So that's the most important thing at the very beginning. It can be hard work trying to nail that down, because I know I had trouble with that in the beginning when I did Krishna's course, but it's something that's really, really important that you need to do.
And that's something that we spoke about way back, episode 1 of the podcast, because it really does underlie every single marketing activity that you do. And podcasting is just one format of marketing that you can choose for your business. So understanding who it is that you're talking to, it really just makes the process that much easier as well, right? If you know what people want to learn about, what they're interested in, then it creates the content ideas for you. And what about the first practical step? Perhaps they already know who it is that they want to talk to. What would you say would be the first practical thing that they need to do?
So yeah, as long as you've got everything in place, like, you know, your goals and you've got a mission statement and all that's really important. Then obviously there's the tech side of things, which people get in a flap about, but you actually don't need much to start a podcast. So for me, all I've got is a Blue Yeti mic here, which is about 200 Australian dollars. And if you're editing your own podcast, you need a decent set of headphones. Mine, an Audio Technica pair, these were less than $90. But if you're not editing your own podcast, you can just use a cheap pair. You don't need anything fancy. And then you can just use Zoom. You're probably already using that. And then there's the hosting platform. You'll need to pay that on a monthly fee. But as far as tech goes, it's not actually as complicated as you might think. And you don't need to spend a lot of money.
See, really only in the end, like at bare bones basic is 4 pieces of tech, 2 platforms, 2 actual physical pieces of equipment in a way.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not going to really do any extensive editing, like using Descript or was it? It's not, I want to say Guitar Hero. What's the one that we use on our Macs? It's not Guitar Hero. The icon's a guitar. GarageBand.
GarageBand.
Yeah. Well,
Guitar Hero.
Well, the one I use, I'm a PC person, so I use Audacity. So you can record on that if you're doing solo episodes. You can record your solo episodes on Audacity and GarageBand, and you can also edit in them too, and they're free.
I'm going to go on a side question, but to co-host or not co-host? What would you say?
Well, there's pros and cons for both. With solo episodes, they're great because when you're in the mood for smashing out your content, you can record. Like I had a client on Sunday, she just recorded 3 episodes in one go. So it's great when you're in the mood, you can just record. But I found clients, only when they start their podcast, they tend to get in the groove later. But clients tend to really struggle with like the first 4 or 5 episodes because they feel weird talking to themselves recording. One even says, oh, I feel really narcissistic just talking about myself. So it's good for that when you have a co-host, because you're just bouncing ideas off each other and having a conversation. But I think when you co-host, it's really important to have someone that you trust and connect with, and make sure that it's someone, before you go into it, that you've agreed who's doing which jobs, like who's doing the editing for this week, who's looking for the guests, and also with your personalities on the show, you could decide beforehand. So are you gonna be the sensible one and I'm the jokey one? You know, like maybe work that out beforehand, because otherwise it can feel a bit awkward if you haven't sorted that out, and you don't want to get in a fight with your co-host if someone's doing more work than the other. So there's pros and cons for each, really.
I think Clem and I decided to both be bad cop, didn't we, Clem?
Yeah. We both decided to be the hot method of the bad marketing mums, which I guess is why the name fits perfectly. I admit, I think the first few episodes for us were a bit tough, for sure. Like we're still trying to find our groove a bit, but you're right. It was really awkward to kind of go and talk to each other, but not at the same time. And I don't know, I feel like we've kind of found our groove since then, where we're letting our hair down a little bit more, but it took a little bit of getting used to it. And then like also like our first interviews and stuff, I don't know. I think we did as best as we could, and we're doing better now.
It's always a learning curve, and you're getting better. Yeah.
And I don't think people really realize that with podcasting, even though you're not necessarily doing it on video or anything. There's a whole, like, it's just the tip of the iceberg of just recording. there's all the planning beforehand, and then there's all the editing and stuff afterward as well.
Yeah, there's a lot that
That's-
goes into it.
So Laura, take us through your tech stack. You said that you use Audacity for your recording. Are you using Zoom then if you're doing guest interviews, or what's your setup?
Just Zoom at the moment for guest interviews, but with Zoom, it's because I've already got the program and I don't want to pay for another one. With Zoom, you just have to make sure you save your audio on separate audio files, because when it comes to editing, it just makes editing a whole lot easier. Whereas other ones like Riverside FM you can use, and they automatically save in separate audio files. But yeah, just Zoom. I've got a Blue Yeti mic, Audio Technica headphones, and to create audiograms and transcripts, I use Headliner. And I think that's all the software I use at the moment. Yeah.
Excellent.
Not
So
too
it
many.
can be really simple to get started. And I always love this saying. This is by Tracy Harris, Mums with Hustle. She always says, start simple, get fancy later. And I think that's kind of been the approach that we've taken with our podcast. We haven't got fancy just yet. We're still simple, but it works. We just recorded another episode, a case study of Risa Tisa, who's blowing up over on TikTok with her really simple videos. And it just goes to show it doesn't necessarily have to be really fancy. You don't have to have the best editing or lighting. And I say that because we do video at the same time as we do our podcasting. But as long as what you're delivering is serving your audience, and again, it always comes back to knowing them, doesn't it? Then we don't need all the fancy tech to have an impact.
Yeah.
I don't use lots of fancy tech.
No, we're not mums with fancy tech here at all. What are your must-dos and your must-don'ts when it comes to producing a podcast?
So must-dos, like I said before, definitely find out who your ideal listener is and do some research before you launch. If you've got like a Facebook group already, or you can do Instagram polls, ask people what they would want in a podcast and get some idea beforehand. You do some research and write a mission statement. So that'll all, whenever you think of your podcast idea, you go back to your mission statement and is it answering that? So Amy Porterfield's, for example, her mission statement for online marketing made easy breaks down big ideas and strategies into actionable step-by-step processes designed to get results. I'd imagine she always thinks about that when she's creating an episode and makes sure that she comes back to that. So again, an example, a client left me a message the other day and said, I'm thinking about this idea for a podcast episode. And I was thinking, I don't know how that's going to link in with her podcast. So I read out her mission statement. And then when she batch recorded over the weekend, she sent me a message, said, I didn't go down that route in the end because I realised it wasn't what the podcast was supposed to be about. And so that's a way of stopping yourself going off on a tangent, is coming back to your mission statement. There's a great book by Eric Newsom called Make Noise, and I've listened to that. I recommend it to clients to listen to too, because it's really good at making you think about why you want the podcast, what your mission statement is, and who your listener is. It's a great starting point for anyone starting a podcast.
And is there anything that we should be avoiding, in your opinion?
Is to come in with the right mindset, because podcasting is a long-term thing. And I find people can be impatient and like, I haven't got 1,000 downloads on my episode yet. I'm like, well, sorry, but it doesn't, unless you're like Oprah Winfrey or something, it's never going to happen. So you just got to be patient. It's a long-term thing. Think at least a year before you're going to get anything going. But yeah, that's the thing. You need to be patient, and you can't be time poor either, because like we mentioned before, there's a lot that goes into podcasting, maybe more than you think. So think about that before you start your podcast, and make sure you set aside some specific time for your podcast, maybe like a day a week or half a day a week, depending on if you're outsourcing. You've got to manage your time well.
And I'm sure that once you find your process or your routine that really works, that time can shrink just a little bit. Yeah. Once you get your groove, it's not going to be a whole day. It might then reduce down to half a day.
Yeah, like what you said, when you first started recording, it was really tricky for you to record your first episodes, then you get in the groove. It's the same with that. And it's the same with me with editing. It used to take me a whole day to edit one podcast episode, and now I can do it in a couple of hours, depending on the raw audio.
Now, Laura, I have a bone to pick with you. I have seen you say that you do not recommend that people read out the guest bio at the start of an episode. Now, why do you recommend this or not recommend it? And what should we be doing instead then? Because I feel like, don't we need to tell our listeners who it is that we're joined by?
I don't mean not read the bio, but I mean give some context for it. So say you introduce someone onto the show saying, here's Debbie, she's won this award, she's won that award, and she's written this book on, for example, Schooling on the Road. Your listeners, they've never heard of this person, they don't know this book, they don't know what these awards are, so there's no point. Just adding like some context to it. So you might want to say, here's Debbie, she's the author of the book Schooling on the Road. She's travelled Australia with her 2 young kids, and today she's going to talk about how she navigated homeschooling with her kids without them getting distracted on the road, and she's going to give us some hints and tips today. Something like that, just so there's some context to it. What's often a good thing to do is after you've done the episode, you've recorded the episode, it's often better to go back and then record the intro in case your episode goes off on a tangent and it wasn't what you originally planned. And so you might want to re-record your intro just so it matches the episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great tip.
Yeah.
Because often the conversation goes somewhere completely different, and what you initially thought you were going to be speaking about doesn't necessarily come to pass.
Yeah, so I'm not dead against bios. I just think it's got to link in with the episode and what your listeners are going to get from the show.
Okay, interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense. So, Laura, should you outsource or should you DIY?
It depends on, again, your time. If you're someone who likes doing everything yourself, if you've got the time to do it, then yeah, go ahead and do it yourself. There's lots that go into podcasting that people don't realise. There's AI tools that can help you, but AI still hasn't at a point where it can do everything for you. Like, for example, a transcript. It's never perfect.
We have that problem with our transcripts. I guess there's no AI platform that can pick up an Australian accent or a New Zealander that's been in Australia long enough that their accent is a bit different, or an American who's been in Australia long enough that their accent is really weird. So the number of misspellings that are in our transcripts is atrocious.
I would say, and I don't know whether you agree with this, Laura, as with anything, I think it's always best that you get your hands dirty and do it yourself for a little bit first to understand the process and what does go into it. And then you can outsource. That gives you a better grasp of all the things that are required, and it provides that context for what it actually costs to outsource. Because I don't know, Laura, have you had people come to you and go, oh no, that's far too expensive, because they don't understand everything that goes into it and the sheer time required to produce a podcast?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and I've got clients that like doing some bits but not others. So I've got some clients I just do editing for, and I've got a client that loves writing, so she does her own show notes. So yeah, you can pick and choose. You could outsource which bits you want to do and which bits you don't want to do. So yeah, there's obviously the editing, and then there's the show notes, the episode description, thinking of a title for your show, putting your show notes on your website. There's probably loads of other things, but they're the main things.
Social media,
and the strategy, and just thinking about who would be a great guest for your show, where you can guest on a show too, where you can be a guest. So it's all these things that you need to think about, and there's a lot to it. And then also when you're organising guests on your show, there's making sure that you can fit them in, because they can cancel at the last minute, and all these things. It can be quite troublesome sometimes.
Yeah, calendar management, right?
Yes,
that's always a headache, and a slightly different path now. And talk about monetizing your podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts on monetizing, some different ways that people could do that, and if you've seen some interesting examples of people doing this, Laura.
So yeah, I guess there's, like before I mentioned, that book. my dad wrote a porno, good way to sell a book. You can build a membership on your podcast. So there's private podcasts like Patreon where people pay for separate episode, and also I think Captivate does this now. So Captivate is a hosting platform like Buzzsprout and Libsyn, those ones, and you can now get paid for podcast episodes on there too. So that's a good way to make money. There's obviously the adverts, but when you're starting a podcast, this will be tricky because you need to get thousands and thousands of downloads before this starts, unless you've got a good connection with someone already who wants to advertise with you. Another great way would be affiliate links. So if you market a product or service in your show and then you put the links in your show notes, then if one of your listeners purchases from that person, then you get commission. And then the best way to make money is from your own digital products or services. So obviously you might put a little ad in or just talk about that product or service in your podcast and put the links in your show notes. Then people can just go and buy directly. That's the best way when you're starting out to make any sort of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that with our mini audits. So we offer an Instagram and TikTok audit, or if you don't have a TikTok account and you just want Instagram, if you have both, we can do both. But that's something that we share as a way, to sell a direct product. But I love these ideas. Affiliate links is just such an easy one to do.
We do that one as well.
Yeah, we've got a few of those from products that we already use ourselves. If they have an affiliate opportunity, why not share it? And you can make a few dollars off of a sale. Yes, and the private podcasts, that's quite fascinating as well. I would imagine, though, you would have to have quite a bit of success in your original content or be someone quite well known for people to want to pay you, do you think?
Well, I'm in a coaching group with other podcast managers, and the coach has created a private podcast. She's got a free one that you can listen to just on Spotify, but she's got this other one, and I've paid for that to listen to her extra episodes, and it goes into more detail about being a podcast manager and how you can grow your business. So it goes into a bit more depth. So you could do it as part of your membership group too. You don't have to be, well, she is a podcaster, but you don't even have to be a podcaster. You could do it as part of your membership group, another way to make money.
So it's kind of like, I guess, the subscription type groups and such. I think that we've started to see it on Spotify. I think they already do that private podcasting there. But it's kind of like, I think, is it Instagram that has like private groups? And they've done subscription, or they tested it out, I think?
Yeah, they've tested it out. I think it's only for larger accounts that you can have a subscription. There's actually been some controversy regarding that, because with the subscription model and content that is hidden behind a paywall, there are, of course, people who choose to abuse that and share things that should not be shared. Mum Uncharted did some videos about that, which can tell you probably guess what type of content I'm speaking about. Instagram are reviewing their private content as a result of that. So let's forget that platform for the moment as an idea.
Forget I asked.
Yes, forget that one. But yeah, Laura, I really love that idea of that kind of private content, and perhaps it doesn't have to be something that you do all the time, like a podcast. Maybe you put together a little series based on a particular topic that has 6, 8, 10 episodes that then you could sell as well, as a way to monetize what you're already doing with your free podcasts.
Yeah, so this example I was talking about, some of her episodes are a couple of years old, but they're still relevant, and I've found them still useful. So they don't have to be recorded today, for example. They could be old ones that are still very useful. Yeah,
and that, of course, is the power of evergreen content, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like, lean into evergreen where you can, because you can repurpose it, use it in different ways, and use it again and again.
So, Laura, where do you see podcasts heading in 2024?
I reckon they're going to go, they're going to explode, because but with blogs you can't hear the person's tone of voice, and that's where you can you can really leverage with podcasts. People are getting a bit funny now about giving their emails away. With a podcast, you're going straight into someone's ears and you're not having to send them an email. People know now when they sign up for something that they're going to get bombarded with emails, whereas they've got the choice to listen to the podcast or not. And that's the beauty of podcasting. And yeah, I think it's going to explode, and it's going to be like social media. It's going to be like another Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that podcasting, and I've heard this for a while now, that it's like the final frontier of marketing, because there's a few billion people on Facebook and Instagram, etc. But there's only a few 100 million podcasts, and even then, most of them don't make it past episode 10, I think.
Yeah. People, because again, when people realize how much goes into a podcast, I think the average is 7 to 10 episodes, and then they just give up. So that's where you need to work out how much time you can spend on your podcast. But yeah, because although there's millions of podcasts out there, a lot of them give up. I think it's like 40%. That's just a number off my head. I'm not sure exactly. But a lot of them give up between episodes 7 to 10. So those that keep going through, like your one, Mad Marketing Mums, they'll see the benefits of podcasting.
Yeah. Well, also, we're on episode 48, I think, at this point.
This is 49.
Is this 49? Ah, that's right. 49. It is 49.
Yes. So nearly at the 50 mark, which is really exciting. That's really interesting, because apparently blogs are making a comeback as well. I think what's happening is people are getting a little bit tired of social media. The creators are getting tired of it, putting something out on Instagram, for example, getting crickets, but also consumers are looking for other ways to be entertained, to learn, to connect with people. So I think it does make sense. And of course, different people prefer content delivered in different formats, right? Some people love audio. Personally, I like video because I need to see people. I say this as I'm recording a podcast, but that's why we do video as well, to cover all bases, essentially.
And I think that's where podcasting is going to go too, more videos, because Google Podcast is no longer now. So all your episodes, you need to, on your hosting platforms, direct your RSS feed to YouTube now. So you can put your YouTube on YouTube Music, but that will just be your cover art on there. But it's a good idea now. People are getting more like what you're doing today, filming their podcast and putting that on YouTube too, because then it covers all bases. You may as well do a video and audio. There's no harm in that. And I think that's where podcasting is going too.
Yeah, that's what we have found, is recording the video and taking that recording and then editing it from there. It gives us the opportunity to have an edited audio version that we can, put our beginning frame and end frame on, but then also gives us another form of content as well. And it's like now we've almost triple stacked it now that we're going live, and then we'll have the video recorded version as well as the audio recorded version. So look at us going and being productive.
Yeah, that's the great thing about podcasts though, isn't it? Because you got the episode, then you can transcribe that, and then out of that transcription you can create a blog post, then you can create like 20 social media posts, and the podcast is always a great starting point for all of your content.
Yeah, that workflow is really important, especially for people who are very time poor. If you can show up once a week, record an hour-long video or 40 minutes or whatever you have time to do, you could hand that over to other people on your team, or you could outsource to a podcast manager like yourself and have all of your other content for the week created off of that one podcast episode. So an email that goes to your list. You can repurpose the audio and pair that with other images or videos that you have. You can take the video snippets and put them onto TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram and Facebook Reels. Like, there's so many different opportunities from that one piece of content. I really like that you've brought that up, Laura, because I'm all about workflow and reusing content, because we don't have time to sit and create content all day, every day as busy business owners.
That's right. And I think with AI as well going forward, it's going to get better and better and make it easier, because at the moment it's still quite clunky and I don't use it that often. But it's going to improve, and that's where I see the future of podcasting too. making it easier for everyone.
Thank you so much for coming on, Laura. We're going to go through some quick fire questions now. That way people can learn more about you in a bit more of a personal level. What podcasts are you listening to at the moment?
So my favourite one is a podcast called Grow the Show. It's by Kevin Schmidland. He helps podcasters grow their podcast. So I love listening to that and getting some ideas from him and then I can pass on to my clients. Another great one, as mentioned before. So my dad wrote a porno. That's a good one for just a bit of fun. Obviously, your show. I'm so pleased it's back. I've missed you for a couple of months. I was binge listening to your episodes the other day while I was cleaning the house. Another one I always binge is Suze Chadwick's Brown Builders Lab. That's an amazing one. And
she's one of my favorites.
And so this is the power of podcasting. I found Suze Chadwick from one of your first episodes. I'd never heard of her before. And so she was a guest on your show. And then, I found her through your show.
I think that was the first episode where I just totally fangirled out quite badly too. But it's funny because my husband, when he says sometimes, he's like, I'll listen to your episodes and stuff. He's like, I can tell when you're fangirling. And he's just like, you just say like a couple of words. He's like, that's totally Clem the fangirl. And he's like, the Suze Chadwick one was definitely like up at the top, I think, at this point.
Yeah, her podcast is fantastic. And you might find a couple of episodes by me on there. She was our first guest actually on Mad Marketing Mums. So we had no idea what we were doing. Something actually went wrong with the recording and I almost died. And I said to her, oh no, it hasn't uploaded from your end, because we didn't realize at the time we were using, what we were using back in that
Zencaster,
that the guest has to stay on the call until it's uploaded. She had another meeting immediately after talking to us. She jumped off and then her episode hadn't uploaded, and I freaked out thinking, oh no, we've lost this incredible episode with her. But fortunately it was a quick fix and she understood as a podcaster herself that these things happen. So we learned our lesson from that one. But yeah, it is a really great way, I think, to discover people. I discovered Denise Duffield-Thomas through Emma McQueen's podcast. She was a guest on there and I discovered her and went, I love this woman. She just speaks so plainly. Everything's really broken down and easy to digest. So I went over and binged her podcast as well. So another, I guess, really great way that it can help grow your business. We will pop links to the podcast shows that Laura's mentioned here and that book that she mentioned earlier. Would love to know, Laura, what is your number one tip for busy parents in business?
It's just you need to have a routine set in place, like I mentioned before. So we're all time poor. We've got running our own businesses. We've got kids. We need to set aside time for the podcast, because if you don't, you're just gonna fade, and you'll be one of those people that launch a podcast and only have 7 to 10 episodes. So it's really important that you realize the effort that goes into creating your podcast and you set that time aside. And batch record where you can, batch everything where you can. That's my advice.
Yeah. And it comes back to something that we've spoken about previously in coaching, Laura, about prioritizing your own marketing over that of your clients, because it can be really easy to spend all your time creating other people's content and helping them grow their business and not doing your own and not helping yourself grow your business. So yes, I love that you've said that.
Jaffa cakes or chocolate digestives? And you gotta explain to people that have no idea what these things are, what they are.
The hard-hitting questions come out now.
What, there's people out there that don't know what they are?
Oh, I am absolutely certain that Americans, I know that the couple Americans that listen to this episode, they'll be like, what's a Jaffa?
So a Jaffa cake is like a mixture between a cake and a biscuit, and it's chocolate and orange. And I used to love these. My mum never used to buy them for us. We always used to get the home brand ones. So I was always jealous of the kids at lunchtime at school that had proper Jaffa cakes, because the home brand ones were never quite as good. Chocolate digestives, tough one. You can't dunk a Jaffa cake in a cup of tea. So I'll have to go for chocolate digestive.
I was going to say a digestive would probably be like the closest thing in the States that we have is a graham cracker, which it's it's bland until you put
Yeah.
something on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a bit gritty, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
the texture of them, but yeah, the chocolate saves them.
Yeah, we would put peanut butter on them in the States. That was the thing that we did, was peanut butter. It's the cookie that you use to make s'mores as well. So there's the digestive part.
Laura, I'm going to just chuck in another really random question. Is there any pet peeves that you have when it comes to podcasts? What's something that really just drives you crazy?
Is people not editing out the clicking, the mouth noises? It really grates me. I can listen to a really good podcast, and if those mouth noises are in there, it just turns me right off, and I cringe every time I hear it. I'm like, you just need to silence that bit out. It's really easy. So that's my pet peeve.
I used to work with someone who would do like a lip smack just before she would speak, and it was the one thing that once everyone left the that company, which is like, that damn lip smack, like it was the one thing that we could not get a handle of.
And once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
No,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yuck. All right. Well, thank you so much, Laura. It has been lovely having you here. And if people want to connect with you, where do you tend to hang out online?
So mainly on Instagram. My Instagram handle is podcast.support.services. I'm on Facebook too with the same link. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. And Laura does have a free training on how to launch a podcast. So we will pop the details of that and that link in our show notes. So you can go and grab that if you are thinking about starting a podcast. And of course, Laura is available should you wish to engage her services. If you are thinking, I don't want to do all the setup and all of that part myself, she is available to help you with that as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care. Until next time.
Stay mad.
Stay
Bye.
mad.